20% of the agents are making 80% of the money, whilst 80% of the agents are squabbling over the 20% that's left. Roughly a third of all the agents in the industry left every year to be replaced by another third. The number of people you come face to face with on a daily basis will determine your success in the industry. Every interaction is a branding opportunity. Yes. Every single interaction. You're never off. The smaller the territory that you focus in to try and become a household name, the better for you.
Hi, my name is Ash from Ask Ash, and I'm sitting here with Richard Wright from VDM Attorneys. He's the head sales coach, and today I want to pick his brain on a couple of things in the real estate sector and why agents are struggling with motivation today. There's such a low barrier to entry to get into this industry, but it's so hard to stick around and stay there because you have to just find this crazy motivation. And there's some mornings you wake up where, you read the headlines and it's enough to make you go back to bed. Political instability, chaos, just generally, crime, all these things that we as resilient South Africans have to deal with. It's enough really to just demotivate you for the entire day. But as an agent, all the food you eat, you feed yourself.
Correct.
So give us some pointers on your kind of your thinking when it comes to changing the mindset of the South African agents, specific to South African agents.
Okay, what a great question. I need to point something out. When I started in 2002, the barrier to entry was even lower. Yeah. In fact, you could fail the exam. It was an exam 4 times a year. You could fail all 4, and just because you'd had an FSC certificate for a year, you became an estate agent. It was that low. So it's like anything else in life, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 principle. And what I always say about agents is that 20% of the agents are making 80% of the money, whilst 80% of the agents are squabbling over the 20% that's left. And what we saw in the really tough years when the bubble burst, 2007, 8, 9, roughly a third of all the agents in the industry left every year to be replaced by another third. So what you're saying is 100% correct. And the minute we see that the market tightens, agents just leave in their droves. And I quite like that because it kind of gets rid of the deadwood. Yeah. But how do you make sure that you are that agent who is the 20% earning 80% of the both? Yeah. So there's one thing that you said there that I'm going to disagree with, and I'm going to put it right out there. Ash, you spoke about motivation. And if you're waiting for motivation, and if you're needing to be motivated before you get up every single day,
you're in the wrong place.
Real estate's not for you. It's not for you. Because let's be honest, it is, and for those of you watching who are real estate agents, respect to you, it is one of the toughest gigs out there. Yeah. There's no guarantee of income. You could do your deals lined up and half of them crash. Money comes in 3 months after the deal, 6 months. If it's a deceased estate, you're waiting. Commercial, if it's development sectional title, you could be waiting years for your money. It is so hard. It is so hard. So if you're waiting for the motivation, never going to happen. So I'm a big believer in discipline is far more important than motivation. Yeah. In fact, motivation comes from being disciplined. When you're disciplined and you're doing the same things over and over, and that's you aggregating, it's the accretion. A wonderful thing, the accretion circle. I'm not even going to go there right now, but in space there's an accretion circle, and that's billions of tiny little particles that are insignificant, but when they are compounded, you have something absolutely incredible, and that's real estate. Is what are you doing today to make sure that this month you're making 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals, and the discipline to do that.
So Richard, if you could maybe let's start from the very beginning, your background, how you got here, where did you come from?
So I started a real estate career in 2002, small boutique agency in Johannesburg. Did extremely well there, had a great run, but the market was really good then. Fantastic property bubble. Moved down from there to Port Elizabeth and started with Pam Golding Properties. I wanted to just be an agent. In Johannesburg, I'd been managing the sales team and trying to sell at the same time, partner in the business. And I wanted to just be an agent, but that didn't last long. 9 months later, I was the sales manager. And then in about 2011, Andrew Golding, CEO of Pam Golding Properties, offered me a position with the training academy. So I was national training manager for about 6.5, 7 years with Pam Golding, and that was amazing because number one, I got to see things from a completely different perspective. I think that's also been part of the benefit, is that I've been part of a small team, boutique agency, been in sales from a branch point of view, from a franchise point of view, then in training. So it's given me a really good overall sense of what property is about and how best to help people become better at what they do, and that's really my thing. And then in 2018, remission from brain cancer for the second time, approached Andrew and said, I want my life to, I didn't survive cancer just to survive cancer. I want my life to mean more. I want to have a broader audience. I want to touch more people's lives, enrich people's lives. Started to speak full-time as a professional speaker, and I moved away from real estate, but real estate didn't move away from me. It kind of followed me around. And been involved with VDM and with Cord in particular for a very long time. I knew him from Port Elizabeth days, and we've done a lot of work together. We've collaborated doing training. Cord has always given so much back to the industry. During COVID, he was my biggest client. I think we did weekly sessions with the agents. That was absolutely amazing. Fantastic platform. And we've just kind of stuck together, and we've done things giving back to agents. And so recently, in fact, I started only a couple of days ago full-time with VDM to start up the training academy. And what an incredible opportunity. There's so few. Everybody says they want to do it. Everybody, all the conveyancing attorneys or the bond originators will call Richard in to do sessions, but nobody wants to create an academy, a full-time position, actually put some money into it and invest back in the industry.
Yeah, okay.
So absolutely amazing that's what VDM have done, and how exciting for me. So here we are.
I struggle with consultants and people who are, self-made coaches who actually haven't been in that grit and in the boiler room. And I think what makes it really powerful about you having had that first-hand experience is you've now paired with VDM attorneys, and that's legal clarity with an industry insight, which is probably one of the most invaluable things you could get as an agent.
For sure.
Because I get asked all the time, how do I become a real estate agent? And I think it's not how, that's pretty easy. It's why would you want to become one?
There we go.
Because
If
you can't answer the why, like you said with the motivation, you're going to really struggle when you're on month 3 with no income and there's no vanilla deal. Even if you get yay, we want the place, then the real work starts.
Correct.
So it's that constant chipping away that I think is so important. And I think, if you could give maybe a piece of advice for someone who has that exact question, like where do I start, what would you say to them?
Where would I start?
If I wanted to be an agent, how do I become one? Where do I start? What would be your first kind of piece of advice?
How big is your network? How big is your current network? That literally is it. So often principals will say, I need to go and employ new agents, and what am I looking for? I want to find somebody who's highly skilled, who's been an agent for a while, who knows what to do, who's got the NQF certificate. Or there's this person who has got an incredible network, great charismatic personality, knows so many people, knows nothing about real estate. Which one would I pick? I'm going to pick the one who knows people, charismatic personality, goes out there, talks to people. That's my person, right?
Yeah.
So the first piece of advice would be get out of your house, get out from behind your laptop. Real estate, and I'll tell you why, and this is so obvious when you hear it. It's never been easier for a seller to sell a property without us. Ever in the history of real estate. It's never been easier.
It's super connected.
So why are more than 85% of all residential resales in South Africa still sold through an estate agent when I can do it on my own? I need somebody that I know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
I know, like, and trust. So essentially, the bottom, the first rung of the ladder is the number of people you come face to face with on a daily basis will determine your success or failure in the industry.
And don't you find that's even more emphasized post-COVID? It was like we were told to stay away from people for so long, and especially real estate is such a people-to-people thing, especially when you're entrusting an agent to handle an asset worth millions. Because if I have to think of my experience becoming an agent, being a principal and opening up my own agency, which I subsequently called Ask Ash, and the reason I put my own name in it was because I was always of the belief that it didn't actually matter what agency I worked at. People would always, my word of mouth advertising would be, phone Ash, she helped me sell my office.
There we go.
It wasn't ever going to be, phone Ash, she's at that agency.
Correct.
Because it doesn't really matter where you are.
You're Ash.
It's the experience that they felt when you were working with them.
Correct.
So I think that if you can teach an agent to create a really strong personal brand, they can be with any agency they can work anywhere in the world, just as long as they have that activation of that brand, that
Correct.
personalized, seriously personalized experience.
So essentially, that fantastic quote that says, every interaction is a branding opportunity. Every single interaction. You're never off. Your brand is on. Whether you're watching your kid play water polo, you're on. Ask Ash. If Ask Ash isn't there, who are you?
And I mean, that would, you're talking about going onto school grounds, and I mean, that would be a whole network in itself. Let's say you live in an estate, your neighbors are your one pool of a network. Then you've got the school you operate in, you're always on the side of the sports field for prize givings, whatever. And then you've got your other circles, whether it's a Fit 45 club or whatever. You've got so many different network pools that you can tap in as a start and nurture those, so that by the time someone's friend wants to sell a house, oh my gosh, you have to speak to Ash.
Correct. So I want to go one step further. Those next door neighbors are brand ambassadors.
Yes.
If they're not your brand ambassadors, if these people are, but how do you ignite that? Well, I offer a referral commission. Hey, what do you guys need in your house?
And how frustrating is it when you hear that your neighbor bought a house from someone else?
Exactly.
And that happens all the time.
But who do? We blame our next door neighbors.
How dare you?
Why on earth? They know what I do. My car's parked. Yeah, but did you ever go in there and have a conversation with them?
How's it? Did you care? Did you actually ask them?
You just give them a hard time because they have parties and you tell them to turn the sound down. And now, do you know what I mean? How can you turn that person into a brand ambassador?
Yes.
So the last thing on this topic is, and this is really good advice, broad again, good advice. The smaller your farming patch, the smaller the territory that you focus in to try and become a household name, the better for you. And agents, specifically agents who aren't doing well, think that more is more. I'm not making sales in this area of 1,500 homes. What if I double it? Let's make it 3,000. Well, your market share was 0.5 in 1,500. Now you've got 3,000. It's 0.25% market share. You make it harder for yourself. But why that patch? Why do I want to pick this? Because I know people there, because my kid goes to school there, because I go and shop there, because they're going to see my car there. Where you do your thing, the gym you go to, the coffee shops you go to, that is where you want to concentrate your efforts, because you are already established in the area. And how can you capitalize on that? And then if you're hustling for every single deal, where every single deal is a brand new seller you've got to meet, and a brand new buyer you've got to meet, it's a very, very long journey. And actually, it's pretty much like this. How can you catapult yourself into the future? And that would be when every single one of those people I've had to hustle for becomes my brand ambassador, shouts my name from the mountaintops. At that point in time, this little thing becomes bigger. I make the circle bigger every single time.
When it comes to the post-service period, which I know a lot of agents, that's where they fall off, is you sign the deal, you do the key handover, and then you chat to that person who moved in and they say, I never saw the agent ever again.
Exactly.
What is your thoughts on that post-service period? I mean, is it worth it to kind of touch base again, to put them in your CRM, to keep in touch? I mean, I know it's more work and you've got your money and you're ready to go, but what are your thoughts on that?
So Ash, I thought I heard you say, is it worth it to touch in again? I thought that's what I heard you say.
A lot of people ask me that question, so I'm trying to frame it politely.
Okay, right. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. It's like, how badly do you want the money going forward? So the reason I brought this up is because that last one, the number of people who know you, like you, and trust you. And if every single time you're doing a deal, you have brand champions, brand ambassadors, more is more, you're having more. It's the key handover, and it's a personalized gift, right? Or it's doing something in the house for them. It's contributing to something that's going to be there.
Exactly. It's front of mind all the time.
Fantastic agent, Pam Godding Properties agent, by the way. She was absolutely doyen of the industry. Phil Sparks, absolutely amazing. She'd been in the area, Rondebosch, for 56 years when she passed away. She would give people a framed picture of the first photograph she ever took of their house when she sold it for the first time.
Oh, that's so cool.
Can you imagine? Hey, I'd like you to have this. You're going to put it up somewhere, but there's a reminder. But it's personalized. But not just the buyer. We want to give the buyer gifts. Not the seller. No, but the seller's
actually paying you.
The seller's The seller's moving out of my area, but he's not moving away from his friends and family and the people that he knows in the area. So I would want you to phone the day after somebody's moved in. We hate those phone calls because they discovered the burnt iron mark on
the complaints rolling.
Yeah, but whether you're there, whether you're not, those things are happening. And when you're not there, you become the problem. Where if you're there, you become part of the solution. A week after that, 2 weeks after that, a month after that, 3 months after that.
Wow.
And if you can do that, and it's simple things. Have you met your next door neighbors? Can I introduce you to them?
Yes.
Have you done this? Do you know where this is?
The local numbers, with convenience.
But that interaction will set you up for life.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in that. And when the conversation comes up with real estate, you're either somebody that they're going to brag about or somebody that they're going to hate on. They're going to. There's no in between.
Yeah.
They will think of the last interaction, how Ash was terrible. You know, you never used Ash, or she was amazing. I hear the stories that you guys
remember how you felt.
Yeah. How people make you feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. But it's all about the number of people that know you, like you, and trust you.
Yes.
And how can that trust go forward?